You're listening to the Tony Steuer Podcast, where Tony interviews financial literacy advocates who are changing the conversation on money, so you can catch up on the latest trends and ideas in the world of financial literacy and education.
Welcome to the Tony Steuer Podcast. I'm pleased to be joined today by Patricia De Fonte. Patricia is the founder of Fonte Law. In this episode, we'll be discussing estate planning with heart and how estate planning empowers your heirs. Patricia, welcome to the Tony Steuer Podcast.
Tony, thank you so much for giving me a platform and a soapbox to talk about one of my favorite things, that estate planning is for everybody.
That's awesome. I'll tell you, this is definitely an episode I've been looking forward to recording. That may sound geeky to our audience members out here, but estate planning is something that we don't talk about often enough. And, we spend a lot of time talking about investments and everything else. And estate planning is something that really makes a difference for people. And so I'm excited to have you here today.
It's interesting. I've seen over and over again the financial wellness pyramid. And you have your foundational elements. And as you move up, you're doing more and more esoteric or complex things. And then at the very top of that pyramid, I would see estate planning. That pyramid drives me crazy. Estate planning is foundational. There is no reason to get all of your ducks in a row and get your financial house secure if you die the next day and it's not all directed. If you bang your head or you suffer a traumatic brain injury and nobody knows where anything is, nobody is authorized to access any of it, and the whole family winds up in court anyway. I like to say that estate planning is foundational and it's for all people. And the only thing that you need to do to get started is be ready. That's it. You don't have to get all your financial house in order. You don't have to do all your insurance. All of that is part of the process. With a good lawyer, all of that will be reviewed, and we can work with your advisors to make sure everything's exactly where it should be. We can focus your attention on those things. You don't need to do all of that before creating your estate plan. Estate planning, one of the biggest triggers is just turning 18. And most 18-year-olds don't have any.
That's true. So you know what, Patricia, one of the questions that I always like to start off with people is, to tell us a little bit about who you are. What is your origin story? How did you get started in estate planning?
Sure. Yeah. So I used to be an entertainment and copyright lawyer. And before that, I worked in television. When I got married, I decided, and I was fortunate enough to be able to be a stay-at-home parent. I thought, a couple of years and I'll jump back. No, 9 years. When my kids got into school, I really had to think about, how do I want to go back to work? Do I want to go back to work? How do I make this work with also being a parent? How do I balance all of this? And I have very close friends who are estate planning attorneys. And they're some of the happiest, most emotionally and professionally satisfied people I know. So the way that I chose to get back into the law in a completely different area is I returned to school, night school, sometimes taking my kids with me, even with a very supportive husband. Sometimes it just, you got to take the kids to school with you. And I got a master's degree in estate planning, probate, and trust administration. I'm so glad that I did it that way. Lawyers, we're autodidactic. We teach ourselves things all the time, but without the network, without being around other lawyers who really work in the niches or have a unique perspective or have experience in different areas, I don't think I'd be as good of a lawyer as I am. And another really important thing happened while I was in the program is that the federal estate tax exclusion doubled to $23 million for a married couple. So how much time do we really need to spend talking about defective grantor trusts when people don't need them? Most people don't need them. What do they need? Well, the final in my advanced estate planning class was all about this woman named Mildred, I think, and she had 99 problems, and I could solve 2 of them with the tax code. And the rest of them was Mildred needs a referral for umbrella insurance. Mildred needs to talk to a long-term care specialist. Mildred really should speak with a financial advisor because she's drawing down on her brokerage, and perhaps it would be wiser for her to draw down on her retirement account. And so it became a multidisciplinary approach and a holistic approach to providing an estate planning service. So estate planning for me, it's not drafting documents and having the client sign documents. It is a full exploration of them, their families, their loved ones, their problem people. We have to talk about all of the advisors, make sure that they're maximizing those relationships, that they're not ignoring letters and calls from their advisors, because it's important to review your insurance. It's important to review your assets with your advisor. And that work retirement policy, you don't have to just leave it there. You actually can make your own investment decisions, and you should tell your financial advisor about it. So I love that I was in the master's program at the time that I was, because the conversation changed radically from tax code to how are we going to help people, regular people.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I was laughing because that always cracked me up, the name intentionally defective trust. It's like, well, why would you create a trust that's intentionally defective? That's a whole nother discussion, of course, but yeah. But I think what you said before is, I think that the financial services industry is starting to reflect is that it's all interrelated. Like when you talk about 99 problems, is some of the things I dealt with an insurance agent, as part of my Sell You course. I took an estate planning course, and I found that to be immensely helpful, so that I could have a meaningful conversation with estate planning attorneys about my clients, to be able to communicate something to them. And like you said, or sometimes liability insurance, and that it's estate planning is part of the process, not a standalone thing.
Exactly.
So I think that's great advice.
Exactly. I think it's really important to find, if you're looking for an estate planning attorney for your clients, find someone who's going to bring you into the process. At my firm, every advisor, once we have permission from the client to communicate with the advisor, every advisor gets a copy of the certification of trust. Every advisor gets the funding instructions. We will invite the financial advisor to our funding meeting. And we hold a funding meeting. It's 30 minutes. And what we're doing is familiarizing the clients with the funding packet, the certification of trust, the list of assets, the instruction book. Here's how we are going to deal with your real estate. Here's how you have to think about your life insurance, your retirement account, your brokerage account, your interest in your C corporation, whatever it is that the client has. Maybe it's intellectual property rights. Here's what we're worried about with your copyright registrations. Here's what you need to do to deal with that trademark. It's a pretty robust meeting. It's a lot of work to fund a trust. We don't do that work because we want clients to do it themselves, so they don't fall down on that issue as time goes by. And we love having the advisor in the room, because the advisor, the financial advisor, that's your person, that's your band leader, your quarterback. See them every year, sometimes multiple times a year. They're the second set of eyes, along with the CPA, along with the insurance broker, to make sure that everything is titled correctly, all of the beneficiary designations are done correctly, especially with those retirement accounts. Boy, that's a moving target with the Secure Act. We really do need our clients to stay in close touch with their financial advisors, because the answer for so long with the Secure Act was, we don't know yet. Nobody knows yet. And so having a client, if clients come to us not from a professional referral, but they've just found us organically through another network, we do help them build a team. We don't want to see any DIY insurance. We have grave concerns about clients who are managing their own investments, because most of our clients are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. So how do you do that and raise a family and not make mistakes? Teamwork is the key, whether it's a glam squad or a carpool or your professional network.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of advisors, should consider that, because advisors oftentimes don't communicate well with clients' other advisors, and things sometimes get missed, or there's miscommunications, or, as you point out, certain things just don't get followed up on. Because one advisor thinks, hey, somebody else is working on that. That's not my thing. And so it's great to have that communication. One of the things I want to ask you about is that you talk about estate planning with heart. What is estate planning with heart?
Yes. So This is something that we started saying at my firm maybe about a year and a half ago. And it really came out of conversations with clients and with referral partners. I was doing a rebranding. I was moving away from being a solo to having a boutique firm. So it's me and 2 more lawyers and a support staff. And the messaging had to change. It couldn't be, come do your estate plan with Patricia. It was, this is my firm and this is my perspective. I'm the founder and this is how I feel. And this is the way I talk to my associates and my team about the service that we provide and what our overarching mission is. And I'm not sure who said it first, but as soon as I heard it, I said, that's what I do. That's it. That's exactly what I do. So trademark pending, registration pending, but it's
Awesome.
It's important to us to always lead with kindness. Estate planning can be really emotionally difficult. You have to be able to tell your estate planner not only about your own frailties. I mean, I ask every couple I work with, I ask them, if you lose your partner, are you going to turn to drinking, drugs? Are you going to get depressed? Are you going to start gambling? Do you have a shopping problem? What's going to happen to you when you are at your most traumatized? Can you manage this trust on your own? And that's a hard question to answer, but maybe it's easier than, boy, I really want to leave money for my mom, but you have to tell us that mom has a problem with alcohol or that mom is receiving social services, because otherwise we might give mom a gift that ultimately hurts her. So you have to really have a good feeling with your estate planning lawyer and spend a lot of time with them so that they can understand what the goals are and give you the options for meeting those goals. I think if you're not leading from an emotional standpoint, if you're not being open to letting someone cry during a meeting, get angry during a meeting, we respond to everything with a soft touch. And we're people. We're not trained therapists, so it's not always easy, but we always strive to lead with a very positive attitude and help people through what's sometimes really, really difficult emotional work. It's never the financial side that's hard. It's the emotional side of estate planning that's hard.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think that's, oftentimes missed throughout the whole, financial service spectrum, estate planning included, that emotional side really comes into play. And that's where people are making their decisions from and interpreting. And it's often overlooked because, everybody gets, to go back to the intentionally defective trust, everybody gets focused on the mechanics of what they're doing rather than, how's the client benefiting from this and how are they going to work on it? So I love that approach. One of the things you talk about too is empowering heirs. How do you feel that estate planning empowers someone's heirs?
Oh, I love this question. So if you do nothing, then statutes will dictate who gets your stuff. And if they're not adults, then a judge will figure out how they're going to get it, right? The judge will make decisions. This is not empowering for anyone. It's just, here's your money, figure it out. Off you go. It's not helpful. 33% of people who inherit money lose it within 3 years. Why? Not because they don't know what they're doing with money, because they're not sophisticated, because they're depressed and they're grieving and they're vulnerable. People come around. Hey, you have money. Can I have some money? Hey, you need a business partner? Want to fall in love? I would much rather craft a plan that includes a revocable trust. In almost all of my trusts, the successor trustee is given a full year to do the trust administration before anybody gets a gift. That doesn't mean that heirs are cut off. If there's an emergency, if they need assistance just as a safety net, fine, a distribution can be made, but no one's getting a huge sum of money for that first year to allow the successor trustee to get that work done, marshal the assets, do the tax elections, all that trust administration that takes time because you're relying on third parties. Meanwhile, the beneficiaries are beating down the doors, right? Where's my money? Where's my money? Well, you don't get money for a year, so off you go. Once that year goes by, what I really prefer to do is create a trust that allows withdrawal rights instead of here's your distribution, because on a happy sunny day, it might be, oh, that person got RSUs, or there was a vesting event or some other big taxable problem. It's money, so yay, but there's tax. I don't want to push money from an irrevocable trust out onto that person because that might be another tax black eye for them. On the other hand, it's here's your money. Well, what if you owe people money? Or what if you're on the verge of a divorce? Or what if you're a victim of domestic violence? What if somebody else can control you somehow? Or you're still suffering and grieving and you're going to give this money away? I much prefer to give withdrawal rights. Let somebody have the opportunity to even use trust funds to pay their financial advisor and their CPA. Let them go and get really good insurance. Then when they're pulling that money out, they have a team. They have people that they've chosen who they trust, and they can determine what to do with the money. Even more extreme is, and I love doing a combination of these two things, but sometimes it's an either or depending on the client. This money will always be there for you as a safety net. We would also like to invite you to ask for money for these specific purposes. And it can be buying a house, having a safe and reliable transportation, freezing your eggs, visiting your grandmother in Guatemala every year, for minor children, bringing grandparents to visit them, whatever is really important for you, paying making sure you have a professional team, paying your professional team. Another mechanism that we use is we have these provisions called well-being provisions, and I wish that I had drafted them. They're beautiful. And it's a lot of very soft language about self-actualization, being a contributing member of society. And what we ask is that the beneficiary meet with a successor trustee every year, and let's have a conversation. So we gave you $300,000 last year for X, Y, and Z. How did it go? How did us giving you that money improve your well-being, or was it an impediment? How did the people around you react when you received that money? How are you doing? Do you need more support around your wealth now that you have cash in hand? How can we help? Those are the kinds of things that empower an heir. Those are the kinds of things that can break that chain of, well, we live month to month, and everyone in our families always live month to month, and you're going to live month to month, heirs, because that's just how we know how to do it. You're worth more dead than you can imagine while you're alive. Between your retirement account, your life insurance, the equity in your house, there's more money there than you can imagine. If it's invested properly, if the successor trustee is working with a great financial advisor, that money is going to show great dividends, right? There's going to be money. We have to teach people how to utilize it, because otherwise a stack of cash goes really, really fast.
Yeah, no, I love that, because I think that gets missed so often in the conversation is, there's so much planning being done for something, but then there's not a lot of planning being done for when that something actually happens, and for the aftermath, which is what you're talking about. And I can think of situations where I know people have blown money, for, as you point out, there's a whole variety of reasons. But it happens, and it doesn't have to happen. So that's great that you're taking that different approach.
So many of us, my husband and I absolutely see that everything we own, we do hold it in trust for our children. We are here to help build their future. They don't have the advantages that we did. We don't have the advantages that our parents did just because of the economy. So how do we make sure that whatever it is that we are building for them, that they get to keep it? That they'll know how to keep it. Because if something happens to us when they're still young, how would they possibly know how to manage anything? They won't. I think it's incumbent on all of us, when we think about who we're going to leave behind, who we're leaving our assets to, try to set it up for them so that they have a fighting chance of keeping it and thriving, and that it doesn't all just wind up, who knows where, hopefully not Vegas, hopefully not the roulette wheel in Vegas.
Yeah, well, and the other thing you point out too that I've seen a lot is financial abuse from new boyfriends or girlfriends or what have you, or new advisors. Hey, let me help you out with that new nest egg.
Absolutely.
And people are emotionally vulnerable. Sometimes not for very long, and some people it takes years for them to, recover from the loss of a loved one, if they ever recover.
Tony, you are so right. If you have a will, because you think, well, it's not that much money, even if it's $250,000, everybody's going to know if you have a will, or if you do nothing, what you're leaving behind and who's getting it. And there are people out there who are just waiting on the sidelines to see that document, figure out who's getting what, and become their trusted advisor. Having a revocable trust can shield them from all that, because they're automatically, you die, there is a lawyer in the room doing the trust administration. And generally, that lawyer is going to have a really great network and be able to introduce the client to vetted professionals. We're not going to, it's, you know, if you're on LinkedIn and you work for a company and, oh, an IPO event, and your mailbox fills up with, you know, investment advisors, you don't want to work with any of those investment advisors. That's not an ethical way to approach a client. You know, it's like the ambulance chasing of becoming an advisor. That's certainly not how I find my clients. You want to, I think if you have one great professional advisor, if your insurance person is incredible and well networked and really good at their job, your financial advisor is top shelf, you have a corporate attorney or a family law attorney, those can be great places to start to find your estate plan lawyer or to find all of the other professionals to help you build out your team. I think one great professional is a great place to start. Not your LinkedIn inbox and not whoever sends you weird mail.
Weird or weird email nowadays.
Yes.
Not too many people get mail.
Yes.
You know, but it cracks me up because I think people overlook it too, is if they have an advisor that is professional, that they've worked with for a long time, that is a good person who can be a resource to help you find other advisors in other areas rather than just going out on your own. Yes. And, you know, or trusting your own judgment when it comes to evaluating advisors.
What your issues are. I get a lot of referrals from a broker who sells auto, umbrella, and homeowners insurance. But she spends so much time with her clients so that she can sell them the exact right policy. So she knows all about who lives in their house. Do they have a pet? Do they have intellectual property interests? What is their life like? Because she can't give them an insurance quote until she's asked them a million questions. She is a wonderful advisor to be able to make introductions to financial advisors, to corporate counsel, and to estate planning lawyers. And it's rare that a referral from her doesn't work out, because she's not sending them to 4 people. She's sending them to me specifically, or she's not. She's sending them to another advisor who perhaps, because they have a special needs child, that's their person. That would make more sense. So having really good advisors who spend a lot of time with you and don't just send you CYA letters and don't call to follow up, but really demand your attention, I think it's just critical.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. You know, you need advisors who care. And, you know, and I think also something that you point out is that if you're an advisor and you get a referral from another advisor, is that you should show some care with that client, communicate with the advisor, thank them for the referral, and, you know, treat that client with respect, you know, not just that it was somebody who was referred to you so you didn't have to go out and find them on your own.
I will say it can be a little tricky with lawyers because we're not allowed to even say that the client has contacted us without that person's permission. And so sometimes I will get emails, hey, I sent so-and-so to you. Have you heard from them? Have you talked to them? But I don't have that call scheduled with the person maybe for a few weeks because they're traveling or whatever's happening. And I just write back, I can neither confirm nor deny because that the potential client's privacy attaches at first contact. And so I'm always begging forgiveness for this. But as soon as I've spoken with the client, one of the first things is, I understand you found us through so-and-so. I would like to contact them and thank them for connecting us, which way this call goes. Do you mind? And get that affirmative consent. But every once in a while they say, no, I'm dealing with this. I'm interviewing a few people and I'll let them know. I say, okay. I'll just have to send a random thank you card about nothing, but I will.
Well, and that's okay. And I think people do need to understand that you know, it does come back to the client. But when you know the advisors that you're referring people to, you can trust that advisor is going to, you know, treat your clients with respect that they deserve. One of the things I want to make sure we talk about is, social justice. Why is estate planning a social justice issue?
Because the deck is stacked against all of us. If you don't have, so estate planning is about three things. What about me? What about my stuff? What about my kids / beneficiaries? If you don't have documents in place to let people take care of you, your body, or your finances, court. Very, very expensive court proceedings for conservatorships. These are a financial bloodbath, emotionally traumatic, and hopefully unnecessary if you just do the right kind of planning. For what about my stuff? Imagine that the only thing that a family owns is a house, and they have 3 kids. And they just think, well, when we die, the kids will inherit the house and it'll be fine. They'll figure it out. They can't figure it out. With all best intentions, it's a mess. It is a mess, because if one of them needs to buy the others out, then we've got income tax and transfer tax, potential reassessment here in California. There are ripple effects. What about my kids? If you haven't made appropriate plans for them, then maybe it's child protective services. Maybe it's your weirdo neighbor across the street who's told the police, I'll take care of them. Nothing in the system is created to provide a safety net for you. Everything is funneled into the courts, and it's all stressful. There has been a huge barrier to entry to even access to the legal system. A lot of communities don't trust the legal system at all for really valid historic reasons, and they don't want anything to do with this. Unfortunately, some of the DIY tactics that I see in estate planning ultimately don't really work very well. If you start adding the next generation onto your deed for your home, what if they don't have umbrella insurance and they go out and cause a huge accident? They didn't even know that they were entitled to your house. But boy, if they get sued, that insurance company is going to find out in a minute with a skip trade. What do they own? So easy. And all of a sudden your home is at risk, or a piece of your home is at risk. It's really frustrating to me. There are books written about how racist and classist the tax code is. It is. It wasn't built for middle-class people. It certainly wasn't built for women, and it's not built for Black people and people of color. It's not. It's built to help people with a lot of money keep their money. So it's tricky because estate planning is complicated, and it's not something we can do in half an hour if we're going to do it right. Asking people with not a lot of time and not a lot of resources to come to meetings incredibly prepared, to do a lot of pre-meeting work is onerous and unfair. It's I feel trapped in the middle because I love what I do and I am enraged at the architecture of what I do. And California is particularly onerous because of our probate code and because of our property values. Other states, it's not as bad. California, it's just truly punitive. But I don't have a better way. I haven't come up with a secret sauce either. I don't know how to fix this.
Well, I think you are fixing it one client at a time. That's the difference that we can make as an advisor, but also doing something like this with a podcast where hopefully people listen to this and we'll reach more people. And I think that's all we can do, thinking with my advisor hat on, you have to do as much as you can, but people are mistaken about the tax code. The tax code is designed to help the people who wrote the tax code, and
yes,
not what we think it's for.
Not what we think it's for. It's really not what we think it's for. It's a big sticky mess.
Yeah, and I mean that's a whole other subject. So we could do a whole podcast. About these social justice issues.
Just read you parts of the tax code that offend me.
There you go. These are the top 10 sections of the tax code that offend me. Yeah. I'm sure there'd be a lot of people listen to that episode.
Well, I think we'd have people actually calling in saying, but that one's my favorite.
Yeah.
Right? Because it all depends. It all depends.
That's funny. So as we wrap up, Patricia, what is your number one tip on financial wellness?
Oh, I think having a team that you can count on is critical. You're going to lose track of your insurance. Make sure that you meet with your advisor every year. And people go, oh my God, I want to talk about insurance every year. Well, maybe your house is worth more than it was. Maybe you have an adolescent who's going to be driving in the next few years, and you need to take a look at what impact that has on your insurance. I want you to talk to your advisor a couple times a year. Think about who's doing your taxes. Are they doing a look back, or is it time for you to graduate to a tax planner? And that might be the same person with a different approach, and it might be a different person. I think having a really terrific financial advisor, having somebody on your side, whether they manage your investments or not, that's someone that if you put into that relationship and you're honest and open about your goals and what you're afraid of and what you're not good at, they can be a terrific resource. I think having a team is the key to financial success. Trying to do things on your own, I think it's like trying to be on a diet in a grocery store. It's just impossible. It's impossible. There's too much bad information out there. There are too many things that will distract you. Too many aisles to go down that just take you completely down the wrong path. Boy, what a muddled metaphor that was. But having a support team is a critical component of my work with clients. We don't like to see a blank advisor list. I don't like to see I DIY everything. I want to see names on that list so that a tree falls on your house, the worst things happen, you know who you're calling. And they're going to come over with a blanket and a hot tea and whatever forms, and they're going to get you through that hard patch. Or they're going to celebrate the wins with you, and they're going to know how to help you celebrate the wins so that you're maximizing that opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip. And I think people sometimes miss that is that, yeah, if you're dealing with complex things, it's good to seek out somebody who knows something about that and can at least offer you a second opinion, even if you are a DIY person. At least consult with somebody to say, hey, let me just run this by you, before you're doing it. So that's a great tip. So Patricia, where can people learn more about you? We didn't even get a chance to talk about your workshops, but to find out about the work you're doing in your workshops.
Thank you. Yes, I have a brand new, shiny, gorgeous website, defontelaw.com. And my last name is De Fonte. And so I'm pretty easy to find because there aren't that many of us in the US. My website has information that links to our workshops. There are podcasts and there are blogs and there's all kinds of good information. You can meet our team of lawyers and our office manager and get an idea of what estate planning with heart means and why and how we do what we do. We're a very client-centered firm. And so we don't talk too much about our process. We like to talk about the client experience and supporting the client. So defontelaw.com for workshops and blogs and podcasts and just to connect with us. The best way to connect with us is through the website because we've got multiple eyes always seeing all of the inquiries that come in. And so even though my team is all over the country, there's usually someone who will see it and respond really quickly.
Fantastic. And for everybody watching and listening, a link to Patricia's website will be in the show notes, so you can just click on the link and visit her website. So Patricia, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. If I could leave one more reminder,
of course,
you have to review your estate plan every 3 years. If anyone says, "Oh, I did my trust 10 years ago," force them back to their lawyer. And if their lawyer has retired or disappeared or doesn't think it's necessary, find them a new lawyer every 3 years because you don't know what you don't know. Laws change, people change. I catch things in these 3-year reviews all the time. And sometimes it's not the plan, it's the insurance. Sometimes it's not the plan, it's, well, you have a new job and you haven't had your advisor look through your employee benefits package. Maybe you get a mega backdoor Roth IRA. Oh, that's happened more than once. So I think having that consistent rolling every 3 years, and also that means that if there is an incapacity, when someone dies, they know who to call. There's no mystery there. You're going to call your lawyer. And if your lawyer isn't doing the post-death work, that referral is going to be made within 48 hours. They're going to find the right lawyer for you. Make sure that lawyer is accepting new clients and get you in the room.
Fantastic. That's great advice for everyone out there. I know for me personally, I need to review my estate plan. That's what I've learned during
I'm
this
sorry
podcast.
if I made you feel guilty, Tony.
And for other listeners out there, so reach back out to your estate planning attorney. And, thanks again for coming on today, Patricia. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for tuning in to the Tony Steuer Podcast. Until next time.